Hello. Welcome, everybody. I just hit my microphone with my headphones. Sorry about that. I'll edit that out.
In peak unscripted gaming fashion, Mike not only forgot that this is his show,
mhm.
but was not prepared for the intro.
Apparently not. You'd think I have a better riff about how to open this, but, I think this is a Creed got robbed, right?
This is a Creed got robbed,
That's what we're
presented by
here to
Unscripted
do.
Gaming.
And we'll get to the movie soon enough here, but, like we always like to remember here on Creed got robbed, folks, is the fact that Creed got robbed by the Academy of Arts and Sciences all those years ago. And, if the Logan Paul Tyson fight is got the giving you the boxing fever, hey, go watch Creed. Check it out. It's a great movie.
If you want to see actually good boxing,
You want to see something that actually doesn't make you want to kill yourself and then come back to life, go check that out.
I also is it the Academy of Arts and Sciences? Is that what it's actually called?
Correct.
I don't think I knew that. What are the sciences that they're referring to? Like, is it like the science of filmmaking, or
I think
like
it's the science of movie making?
Okay.
And which, in many ways, could be seen as a mastery of the arts of deception and, what's the angle here? Like the same thing, one wizard in a place called Oz may have been credibly accused of being, because he metaphorically showed the people of Oz a video of a train about to run into the camera, and they're like, let's make him our god king. And folks, we're here to talk about it. You guessed it, we're talking Wicked here.
We are talking Wicked, Mike. I really loved the way you roundabouted to that. And as some listeners of Creed Got Robbed might notice, this is an unusual pairing for Creed Got Robbed. Ray is not here, having spawned a little child with his wife recently. Movie time has become less, and I have been a fan.
A house landed on Ray, so
yes.
That's why he couldn't be here.
Yes, his red slippers got pilfered from his corpse, and me being the ever opportunist and a fan of the Wicked musical since I was a wee lad. I saw the movie very early on, and so I'm here to discuss with Mike Wicked Part 1.
Which is the funniest thing, because
that's the ultimate.
We gotta start
house,
there, I guess.
That was the ultimate house dropped on us out of the blue. Was mere weeks before the release of the film, a leak from a pre-screening showing the opening credits saying "Wicked Part 1," a fact which nobody knew. Just like I said, mere weeks before the release of the film to the general public, which
it's really funny because in a lot of the trades, like Variety and stuff, for a while it's been like, hey, this is a 2-part thing, but don't tell anybody it's a 2-part thing. So I'm like,
a secret.
So I'm like, I see it on movie Twitter, and I'm like, oh, okay, so it's a 2-part thing. Everybody knows that. And then a day before, I'm like, you guys know this is a 2-part, right? And they're like, what? It's as long as the stage musical.
Part 1 itself is as long as the stage production, which when I first found out, I felt a little, my gabbers were flaccid a little bit. My wife was absolutely beside herself. My wife very much had some nervous anticipation going into this in general, but then hearing that, she was very not excited. Yeah, she was very upset. I I was like, okay, I kind of see how they probably got here. You
Because
know,
you can't quite have musical pacing in movies.
you really can't
Right.
unless it is just like, with the Hamilton production where they're literally just filming the stage production and then, producing it and releasing it. Like, you cannot have that same pacing in a movie. And so then you either have to expand on some stuff or you have to cut some stuff, like, to fit it within that framing.
Hmm.
But as we'll probably get to, I think they made the right call. Mike, this is some breaking news. I don't know if you saw this today. The Title IV Part 2 was announced today. Wicked for
Yes.
Good in theaters November 21st, 2025.
I think that's a song from Act Two, right?
It is. One of my favorite songs. Like,
I
it's
guess that also betrays the other kind of funny part about this whole thing is that the movie was my first experience with Wicked anything. I had not read the book, which I understand the premise of the book. I understand it's
yes.
a little woohoo. What the fuck did that? Oh god, that's embarrassing. We gotta just go past that.
We're
It's
we're
a
off the
little
rails here.
different than the musical, and that's fine. I think a lot of people are like, "Oh, this." My understanding is like, my wife read the book and when she was younger. I was like, "Well, I don't know if I should be reading this, but here we are. Oh well," and that's fine. Um, hadn't seen the musical, never listened to the music. I don't have anything against musicals. I like musicals. I just never, perchance, just ever encountered Wicked
Yeah.
ever. So I went in here pretty like just pretty much as blind as you probably could be.
Yeah.
Like I hadn't have like I've heard of like Defying Gravity and Popular.
So
Uh
a friend that I went and saw it with, he knew Popular from TikToks. He did not know that that was a Wicked song. Like, he only knew
oh
Defying
brother,
Gravity.
okay.
So even more blind than you, but still blind, like
Yeah.
absolutely blind.
Um so yeah, going into this was I uh I guess like kind of top level impressions here. Overall, I think I like enjoyed it overall. I think
Can I
there's
ask?
a lot to really yes, go
I was
ahead.
gonna ask, like, going into it before, like, obviously you did not have any, like, knowledge of it. Like, what were your expectations, or what were you thinking of, like, as you're getting ready to go to this 2 hour and 40 minute movie musical based on a 20-year-old very, very popular musical? Like, what were your expectations? What were you thinking? Like, talk to me about that a little bit.
Well, 2 hours and 45 minutes falls right in the pacing zone of your movie is no longer like the tight 90-minute thriller. It's now become something else.
Yeah.
But it also doesn't get to like the 3 hour like Sunday afternoon historical epic
Yeah.
that I feel like your movie's either like 210 but then you got to go right to 3 hours and you got to like you're making it an epic like
Yeah.
then her Lawrence of Arabia like epic, right? That's what you're shooting for. If you're using 3 hours, that's what you're going for.
Yeah.
And if you don't think you can get that, guess what? Your movie's capped at 210. So if it's in that other middle range, it's like okay.
Yeah.
I get nervous about the pace. It's like of course it's entirely rudimentary, but I feel like it's
There's a
right more often than it's wrong. But
there's
I
a
thought
there's a
overall
there's
the
a
pacing was really
basic
good.
movie arithmetic
Right.
that you're like, if you're going over a certain amount of time, like, you really have to have the chops to do this, or you're gonna be having a bad time.
Yeah, and overall I feel like the pacing was pretty good. Like it never goes too long without um like a song or like interesting visual stuff. I like the like I think that was one of the big kind of like questions this movie had to answer was like, okay, justify the split. And I think by the end of the movie, you're like, I think that you kind of, it feels like, yeah, this was a really good call. This was
Yeah.
a good decision. I
Yeah.
don't,
I think, like you said, by the end of the movie, you're like, okay, if they really did try and fit the whole story into this time, like, it would feel rushed. Like, yes, it works as a stage production because you are moving very quickly between scenes and instances, and you don't have to spend as much time on, like, the deep character development, but, um, you know, and it also didn't feel like they needed to, if they were going to do two parts, then cut it down to like an hour and a half each. Like I think they pretty much justified that runtime for what they were going
yeah.
for.
Well, I think they did a good job. Like, again, I have not seen the stage play, but I think they do a good job, like taking the time to like show you some of like the fun sets that they built out for it, uh, like a lot of the environments and like costuming and stuff. It's just like a lot. They're not afraid to like let you just sit and watch some of that sometimes.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really nice. And I think a lot of just like,
They
I think that really justified a lot of it.
they built a world that they were very proud of, that was very pleasing to be in, and they just let you be in Oz. Like, they let you be in Shiz. Like, they just let you enjoy those
Dear old
environments.
Shiz.
Dear old Shiz.
My favorite song in the whole movie.
I'm sure it was.
It's my favorite one. Folks. You're like, really? Is he joking? No, I'm serious. It's my favorite one.
It's a banger. Certified banger. No, and it's something like I was really pleased with is how much they did through practical effects. Like, as a kid, I was always like, this musical came out when I was like 14, 15. I experienced it, like the music at 16. I think I saw it live, when it first started traveling around like 17. So like, I've been involved in this for a long time, and I always said like, Oz and this musical in particular like would really translate well to a musical movie. Granted, I'm glad that they waited because early 2000s versus now, like, things have come a long way. But I do think it would have been really easy for them to just do CGI everything. And yes, like, obviously to do the Emerald City, like, in some instances you have to do some CGI, but like when they could do practical effects, they did. And like a lot of the dance numbers and whatnot, like they were using real moving platforms. It wasn't just like people on a green screen. Like, they built these sets and people were moving about them, and stuff was like, opening and sliding.
I thought the Dancing Through Life, like the circular library set, like just like a really cool design.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if that was from the musical. I wasn't sure. But I thought that was just a really cool, like, this is like different, but like it's just a really fun, like, Ozzy kind of thing. Like, I think this is from the musical, but like this, like the little twist. I'm trying to think of an example, but like the little twists that they add on to words. It's like I can't remember any of them right now.
Yes.
But like the way the things that they say are just different enough from like the way we talk, that like it's like oh, we're in a different place.
Yep.
And like that philosophy is in a lot of like the set design, which is really fun.
The first time you hear one of those words, it's a little jarring because you're like, that's not the word. And then the second time I'm just like, oh, this is just like how they say word. Like, this is how they do enunciate. Like, this is their vernacular. And like, you immediately get like engrossed in that. And yes, that also translates into the environments that they're in. Like, Popular, with the way that Galinda's suitcases and whatnot open up and like, kind of Russian doll form into like a dancing platform and like move in different ways. Like, that also, like, I loved that scene. I love the visualization there.
Good, like like good physicality of like the props and stuff like that. Just really good like
Well, and it gave a different verticality to what could have been a very flat, like, oh, we're in a dorm room. It's like, oh no, now we're on platforms, we're moving up, like we're literally changing the shape of this environment that we're in.
mhm.
Like it felt very stage production, and like we
Yeah,
are
it
we are
carried that energy really well.
yes, like we are moving stuff around, and like, it gives extra moving a chair in the background vibes of like the way stuff moves. And I really really appreciated that. And it really made the environment feel lived in more than just like produced for people to act on.
Right. Yeah. I think kind of to your point earlier, I think when the movie visually is at its weakest is uh when you get to some of the heavier CG stuff.
Yeah.
Like the I I think like the defying gravity kind of being like Cynthia's performance of defying gravity, like her singing is incredible. Like
Phenomenal.
grand slam, knocks it out of the park. Um, but it's kind of overwhelmed by like MCU sunset, and it just like from how strong some of like the visuals and sets were earlier in the movie, the way that like the most iconic number in this whole movie show starts is like they're basically in like a broom closet
Yeah.
is what it looks like. It's just like, is this really what we're doing here? So some of that stuff I think I did not particularly love. I think there's some shots where it just feels like some of the ones where like the lighting, it's like the sun is behind and like you're blasting into the camera and it just kind of washes everything out. I just don't personally love some of that. I
Yeah.
think it could have, it's like and this is maybe a little nitpicky, but you go back to like, and I'm comparing like, this is a very unfair comparison comparing Wicked to like some of like the seminal art, like the most seminal foundational art of like the 20th century. But like you watch this movie and then you go back and watch like Singing in the Rain or something, and
Yeah.
it's kind of like a we forgot how to build cathedrals kind of thing.
Yeah.
With just like how musicals like used to look and like the design, like the way the camera is just holding for like 2 minutes without a cut on these actors like singing, dancing, and doing the whole routine in a way that this movie like just does not. I thought like and that's not to say like I did not have a great, I didn't enjoy watching this movie. It's just it feels like a lot of, and again, it's a very unfair comparison I think, because it's like Singing in the Rain is like one of the top like maybe 10 movies ever.
I
But
also yeah, and I also think like unfortunately like you in a certain way you just cannot, like, it's not that you don't know how to make that kind of movie again. It's just like
mhm.
the modern audience is probably not as like they appreciate that
Yeah,
as a historical
historical
thing,
thing.
but to like watch it in theaters is like
Yeah,
hey, you're making this thing that I've been belting in my car for the last 20 years, imagining what this looks like in my mind. Like you can't necessarily, like, you do have to give it a certain grandeur that
yeah. Leads to a CGI production of it
yes.
rather than something that more closely mimics the stage production.
Yes, correct. That's
Yeah,
that's kind of how I like. I I I agree
I
with
think
you,
that's fair.
but I know how I know how we got there.
Hmm.
Um. So
Yeah.
I think both can be true at the
Hmm.
same time. Like you want it to be a certain, you wish it could be a certain way, or that one or two things could be differently, but also appreciating how well they did with the modern framework
Yeah,
of how
and
that
I
stuff is
think,
going to work.
and some of my like nitpicks about some of the CG and some of the visuals are only, I only have those because there are some parts in the movie that are just so strong and just it all comes together so well
Yeah.
that it feels it. Some of the other parts that don't quite land there feel flat. Um, but I guess speaking of performances, obviously Cynthia was amazing. I think Ariana Grande might need to win an Oscar for this. I am dead serious.
I
She's so funny.
She was amazing. So like I was not really familiar with Ariana Grande as like an actress. I knew she was a
Mhm.
talented singer and a performer and whatnot. Um but and maybe this was just my bias to Kristen Chenoweth and Adina Menzel, but like I was a little nervous about that casting. Like, but she crushed it. She was phenomenal. Like every single like intonation and the way that she moved her body, she embodied that role so unbelievably perfectly.
Yeah, like just the, I mean, the singing is obviously like was great.
Yeah.
Um, just really perfectly conveying like the, I don't want to say ditzy is not a complex enough word.
So the way I'm thinking about it is like Ditzy is not a complex, but there's like she does ditzy pain perfectly, of
Mm-hmm.
like somebody who is trying their best to keep it together because they know that's what they're supposed to do,
Mm-hmm.
but every single time they open their mouth, you know something has wounded them or there is something deeper going on there that they will never admit, but like you can see it in their eyes, you can hear it in their
Yeah.
voice. Like she captures that so well. Like yeah, her life's been perfect, but like she's not used to like not getting handed everything, or like she is starting to care about this person and seeing them in like she
Right. I guess I think what I would say is she channels, to me it's very Legally Blonde
yes.
in like a really good way, cuz like Elle Woods, like Reese Witherspoon's character, as I'm reading it right off the IMDb because I don't remember her name, is not like, is like blonde, and like it kind of wants you to think she's like not,
Blonde,
doesn't
bubbly, no
have the,
substance.
but like is very smart character, and the
Yeah.
whole movie's about how the fact like, no, she's smart the whole time. It's not like she suddenly gets smart. She just like is just smart. Just changes, like
Yeah.
just focuses on different things eventually. Um, and I thought Ariana Grande's performance was channeled a lot of that, but like just like it really just comes down to like her in Popular when she was literally swimming on the floor. It's like, this is so funny. Like just doing the full on backstroke
I
and like slamming the book. Just it's
I mean everybody
just
knows I have a pretty distinct laugh, and I honked so hard during that scene. Like that was so good. And that's another like we'll get to that in a second, but like no,
mhm.
she like her physicality, her performance, like every scene she was giving it 110%. Like she was phenomenal.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the races are gonna shape up to look like. The Oscar races.
Yeah.
Uh, don't clip that. But I don't know. That was really funny, and she did a really good job. And I feel like if I'm Wicked, I think an like a supporting actress campaign for Ariana Grande. Just, I don't know. That makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people, it's the kind of thing a lot of people would have fun voting for that if I had to bet. Um,
Well, and for me, like Cynthia Erivo's performance is also amazing, but I think Act 2 is where she is going to shine even more.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that is really Elphaba's story, like, where things really get intense. Like, yeah, she was great in the first part, but, like, the first part is really more Galinda's journey and
Right.
a
Yeah.
lot of stuff. And, like, I think, just based off what I know about, like, this thing, thankfully they filmed everything together, so, like, there's going to be a lot of continuity there. But I think if you're you're being strategic about, like, where you're going to get the nods, is like you really campaign for Cynthia to get Best Actress for Part 2 and Ariana to get Best Supporting
That
for
makes
Part
a lot
1.
of sense now that you say that. Yeah. Check out the brains on this guy.
Yeah. I'm thinking strategery, and again, like,
Yeah.
it's not that Cynthia's performance wasn't phenomenal, but I think Act 2 is going to be even better, and, like, where
Yeah.
she really shines, and you get to see her, like, acting and singing
A
and,
little
like,
bit of
yeah.
like, and I wouldn't be surprised in general too if, like, you have how, like, Lord of the Rings, right? I guess it's not the first example of this, but I think it makes some sense. Where, like, they picked up some awards between Fellowship and Two Towers, but then Return of the King, obviously, because it's, like, very well done.
Where they just mopped
like,
everything up.
That's when they, like, ran the table, right?
Yep.
So if they really stick the landing on Part 2, I would, and it's, people. I don't know a lot about the standard Oscar voter, but I think, I feel like I feel like the, pardon me, the world where they're like, yeah, Wicked Part 2. I see, I feel like that's an easy kind of vote to talk yourself into.
Yeah,
Especially
absolutely.
if it's a real crowd pleaser and, like, makes a F ton of money, which it seems to be well on its way to do, which is awesome.
I'm gonna be seeing it again in 2 days, so I will probably have already been on my second watch by the time this episode actually goes live. So
That is correct.
I
will need some time to edit this.
Yeah, I might have to do it. I might have to tack on an addendum with some additional thoughts after my second viewing.
Right.
So check the comments for part 2, where I give some additional thoughts.
Hey, you want a mid-episode mailbag plug idea, Josh?
I would love one, Mike. Where can I send mail to if I want to have questions answered here on Creed Got Robbed, presented by Unscripted Gaming?
At Unscripted Gaming, right?
Correct.
Yes.
Correct.
I was gonna ask you that question. I'm like, oh shit.
I should have just you were passing to me to, like, say mailbag at unscriptedgaming.com, but I misinterpreted that, so
It's okay. We got it. We're there. Hey, the question is, should I so again, I have not even listened to the second half of the soundtrack. And, well, the time I did, it was extremely quiet, because I was driving home and I didn't want to wake the girls up. So I have not really consumed Act 2 in any way. Should I do that now, having enjoyed Act 1? Or should I just wait?
You should wait.
Should I just wait?
I think you should go. So here's what I was going to say too, is, like, they do tweak a lot of the songs, both to fit some of the narrative changes, but also just to fit the performers that are doing them and the things that they're doing on the movie production. Like Dancing Through Life is almost fun, is the same, but also fundamentally different, because how Fierro brings up going to the Ozdust is different. Like, in the show, in the stage production, somebody tells him about the Ozdust Ballroom, and he's like, that's where we should go. In the movie, he's like, hey, I know this place that y'all aren't supposed to go to, but we're gonna go there anyway. So, like, it's fundamentally different in, like, that. So, like, I do think you should go back and listen to, the start of the show through Defying Gravity, just to, like, get some context of, like, how did they change some of the songs. Here Adina and Kristen Chenoweth, like, again, they made some some minor tweaks to like some of the pacing. Popular like the Ariana, right? That is not like the way
Right.
that
Right.
that's not how that
Right.
really
Yeah,
happens in
very
the
funny.
regular their song. So I would say listen through to Defying Gravity so you can just hear how it's different. But I would say go in blind, because especially if you listen to part 2, there are going to be some spoilers for what happens, because again a lot of the narrative is driven through those songs, and that is even more important in part 2. Um, there's like one thing that
Interesting.
there's like
Okay.
one big thing that happens in part 2 that I don't think happens in a song, but there are some other things that do that will get spoiled for you. Again, some things you can probably infer, some that you might not be able to, but I would say do not listen to anything past Defying Gravity unless you have, unless like between now and November, Wicked comes to town and you go see the stage show, then like, go do that. But
Right.
if it's
Yeah.
just listening to the music, I would say do not listen to it past Defying Gravity.
Interesting. Okay. I'm more than comfortable. I'm more than satisfied doing that. I don't feel like that's the other thing too. I guess is why it's like I'm comfortable with this way they split this. Is this feels entirely natural to me. I don't, especially after like Defying Gravity at the end of this movie. Like, I don't think that you can. That's the energy for leaving the theater there is like very spot on. Like that felt really good. So I don't think there's no way you can emotionally, I think, go any further than that point. And I'm very satisfied with that right now.
Yeah.
So I'm not dying to listen to the second half. I'm not agonizing over
Yeah.
it. So that feels natural.
Yeah, no, I will say, yeah, I think that's a good call. My biggest gripe, my biggest nitpick of this whole film is that it was 4 seconds too long. Like, and this is just me, and I know from partly it was like to just flex some chops and whatnot and get a little screen time with her, give him a little smirk, but like Defying Gravity, you have this amazing. She just
This
does
sequence is not good.
it like as soon as she finishes that note, bam, cut to black, part 1, curtain drop, end of scene. But no, we go on like 4 seconds with her like, fucking doing a supersonic a cavern run on her broom, and I'm just like, damn it. There was like, it should have been ended right there. And the other folks who were seeing it with me, folks who like the musical, but also folks who are just fans of movies, like that was like such a natural, like immediately cut to black, and they didn't to like, just give the VFX artist a little more time.
It's a little, for better or worse, it's a little MCU energy. I'm sorry. That's what it feels like to me sometimes.
Yeah,
just a dash.
You just
a
yeah,
bit.
you had to get Iron Man, like, boom,
Mm-hmm.
breaking the sound barrier, getting away from the baddies and whatnot. Like, I get that, but man, I wish they had just like, she just
Alphaba, go distract Kang.
Yep, just bang, cut to black. Like, oh, that would have been perfect in my mind. But yeah, no. I mean, it was a phenomenal movie. It, as a fan of the musical, and as somebody who has wanted them to do a movie but still been nervous about them being able to pull it off, I really think they stuck the landing on all fronts. Like, they did not tone down any of the themes or like the message of the movie. Like, it was unapologetically like a feminine story. It was unapologetically itself. Like, it was a musical. Mm-hmm. They weren't really cagey with that. Like, they did not try and make Galinda or Elphaba seem more polished than they were. Like, they were
Yeah.
true to the show, true to the characters, true to their flaws and everything. Like they really, in my mind, stuck the landing with everything that the musical is and was.
Well, there you have it, folks. I think that's about as good of word.
That was a line from a song.
Oh, see, I didn't even for the real wicked heads out there, for the Oz heads.
Got him.
Whatever you call yourselves out there. For the one listener who is going to be really happy that we did this, who, you know who you are.
We appreciate you. We love you. And
we're scared of you. Please don't be mad at us.
But also send us lots of praise at mailbag@unscriptedgaming.com. Please. We appreciate
We respond very well to praise. Please. Thank you.
If you praise us, we'll do more of it. That's
right.
That's what we do here.
We can be bribed. I want to make that exceedingly clear. I will accept bribes.
I am for sale.
Advice.
I am for sale.
We are for sale.
Shout outs, ad reads. I'll do them all. I have.
My man is not joking about that one for sure.
Reach out to me directly, Josh at unscriptedgaming.com. We'll chat.
Yeah, don't let Mike see that. Mike can be like, I don't know.
There's some ethical dilemmas, but then if I just start doing it in the middle of an episode, he can't say shit.
Exactly. No one likes what I say anyway, so it's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, what do we take a break? And then do our pivot, or what do we do?
This is your show.
Do we just keep talking?
This is Mike. This is your show, so you tell me, bud. You tell me what you want to do. This is your show.
The thing is, the dilemma we have to solve is I have to get another beer. Can you solo pod for 10 seconds so I can go get a beer?
But here's the problem.
Well, now I guess we have to leave this in.
Yeah, so. Here's the problem. I also need another beverage, so I think we need an interlude. And yeah. So we'll be right back.
Stop an interlude. We'll be right back.
Right here.
Welcome back.
We are back.
We are now back. Yes, hello. Hi.
Hi.
Welcome to Like Wicked. This podcast has 2 parts.
Oh my God.
There, look at that segue. Look at that. That was beautiful. Are you ready for the hardest pivot of all time, folks?
The cross audiences in this are you know.
It's literally us and nobody else.
It's not even a Venn diagram. It's just 2 circles next to each other, and we are the 2 lines that touch in those 2 circles.
Right. Maybe like 3 other people who will listen to this.
Hey.
3 is
our one viewer. She's also very, in that cross section too. So.
Right. Yeah. So I'm thinking we got at least 3 or 4. Yeah, we're gonna have a full appeal for.
We're we're workshopping a new pod, and we're trial ballooning it in this episode. Hopefully, it doesn't get caught on fire and sent down. But if it does, I'll find another way to rise above it. Because I know that's how you want me to respond.
We open this with a question. Josh, how does it feel to be 10-4 in your division as a fan of the Green Bay Packers and in third place? How does that feel?
So let me answer. Let me respond to this in two parts. Any other year, if you ask me, in the week before Christmas, hey, how do you feel about being 10-4? I'm gonna say I feel fucking fantastic. This is an amazing spot to be in. But this year, asking me how I feel about being 10-4 and being third in my division, while there are division leaders out there who are under 500, feels pretty bad. Like, again, not going to be mad because, like, we'll make it to the playoffs more than likely. But, like, God, holy hell, it does not feel good to have such a good record. And
the sweat division, maybe in the history of the National Football League.
It's something
it's
like
so funny.
We're like 28 and like as a division, we are 28-3 against the rest of the league. Like, it is unbelievable. Like, yeah, in the AFC South, where your Indianapolis Colts are in, the current leader of your division is 9-5.
That's so funny.
They're leading your division, and they're 9-5. They have a worse record than us. Like, what is going on? How? How is that possible?
I don't know what to tell you, man. It's not good. That's why the vibes are really harsh right now over in Colts land. Because we ask for so little, right? I even, like, realistically, like, the goal of this season was to, hey, let's figure out if Anthony Richardson is gonna be the guy. That's the goal. And we did the same Colts thing where we're like, lose really awful games that we should not have lost, and then win a couple games to make you go,
Could be. It could be. At one point, you had to bring in the elite Joe Flacco.
We can't. It's so, like, it's just, for people who don't understand or don't know, everything about why the Colts are the way they are, the real Rosetta Stone for it is understanding that the fact that they are controlled by the iron fist of football Willy Wonka, aka Jim Irsay.
That's such a good way to describe it.
He is football Willy Wonka because he's a long, interesting history as himself. I'm not going to go into his history of, like, I don't think that's really germane, or, like, really relevant. Some of his, like, history with, like, substance abuse and stuff. Everybody has their challenges, right? But it's just the past couple of years, it's been clear. We have these goddamn carousel QB graphics. I swear to God, every single time we're on any sort of national broadcast, they're like, "Oh, let's dig out the whole QB list," and it's like, "Let's see who's next." I'm so fucking tired, man.
It's rough.
Do you want to know when because just for a little lore here, folks, I did not really have an NFL team growing up because I was kind of in split territory. I grew up in a part of Ohio where you're a fan of Ohio State. That's your professional football team. Uh, and so it just was not really something I followed super closely until I eventually I became a Colts fan for a reason. Um, and I started basically as right at like the luck seasons is when I came in.
Yep.
Which were like,
Which
hey,
is a
well, this
great
is pretty
time to
fun.
like come into a franchise.
This is pretty fun. This is all right. And then just ever since then, they haven't been the worst team, right? So it's like you can't even complain about like, oh, this team only won 2 games this year. That's a bummer. It's just like it's just a more painful experience than I feel like a 6-8 team should really be, right? Like a 6-8 team should give you like, okay, here's the trajectory of the future. We got these good guys. Okay, maybe they're not going to be on the same timeline as everybody else. Maybe they'll walk at free agency or we'll trade them or something. Have your ups and downs, but just like
To literally have
there
no
is a
idea what the
pain.
next plan is, like to be like, hey, we drafted this guy 2 years ago, and like maybe we need to already draft somebody new. Like it's a rough spot to be in.
There's just like I'm trying to let's take a look here. Like, um, every 6-8 team in the league, or approximately, they all have their hardships. Now that I'm looking at them, but like, I just, I can't imagine a, I can't imagine a Cincinnati fan has the same kind of tummy ache I do about my team at 6-8 because you have Joe Burrow, right? Like
you have
you a couple things snap into place and all of a sudden you're great.
you
Right.
fixed the defense, and that's another Super Bowl. Like you fix the defense, you hang on to T
You're
Higgins
right
and
there.
Jamar Chase, and you are in the
Right.
shot of another AFC title and another Super Bowl run.
Right. Like, and if as far as the AFC goes these days, like you do not need uh to even not even assuming they win the division, like 9, like it looks like this year you probably need 9 wins to get like the last wild card spot.
Yeah.
At least. Like that's the floor you have to aim for. And in the AFC, I think the Bengals could do that because they have like at the end of the day they have somebody who could, I think hypothetically, like put together an MVP season. They
Yeah, I
probably
mean
need a new coach, but like they are closer, right?
they could win out, and a couple other people could slide, and like they could still like they are still in the hunt right now. Like it is not, it's a tough road, but like they could still do it. They could get to the playoffs this year.
Right. And I feel like a Bengals fan, we have some Bengals fans on speed dial, and I'm sure that they could like they would maybe have different feelings about this. I'm not in the weeds the way they are. I know they have concerns about their coach, which I think are valid.
Yes. When you have multiple players leading the league for multiple stats, you have the most 30-point games that lead with a loss in the like you have
It's a little too
you have
on the nose.
you have four more losses over 30 points as one team than the entire league does combined. Like that's a problem. And that's not your quarterback's problem, because your quarterback's job is to put up as many points as they can, and when they're putting over 30 points a game and you're losing, like that's not their fault.
Yeah, I feel like for Indy, I don't want to like simplify things in Cincinnati, but I think they're like maybe a slightly better defense and maybe a different head coach. Easier said than done, right? and then all of a sudden they're a 10-11 win team.
Yeah.
I think they're that close. Like, I look at the Colts and I have no fucking clue, right? At where we kind of are. It's like, our defense everybody has flashes, which is the really frustrating part because like the stats will tell you that Anthony Richardson is one of the least accurate quarterbacks who's ever like started a lot this much football, and he just does not have the accurate, like the kind of accuracy that gets you benched after a couple of years. That is
Yep.
because he's just not gonna cut it. But then he just has like, I still think about the pass that he had in like throwing off of his back foot, and it was just like an arm punt delivered perfectly to Pierce, and I think it was like the Texans game.
Yeah.
And it was just like one of the most gorgeous touchdowns I've ever seen in my entire life. It was like, what? And it's like some of the highlights are just so spectacular with Richardson. And it's just like, what the? Oh my God, look at
Yep.
that.
Yep.
But it's just not. I mean, and the problem is like, because of all the noise of like, they benched him. He had to learn how to actually like play and not get hurt. The Joe Flacco is not going to be somebody who can really win games anymore. So now Richardson's back, but it's like has been like better. So I don't really know, like, that's the thing is like I feel like the Colts, like you look at them like it's hard to tell like what's the thing you change, like is I think we are probably due for a GM change is what I think most Colts fans would say is like Ballard's kind of not really been able to kind of build the team that he has spoken about building.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably what needs to happen. I don't know. That Denver game makes me sick, man. Like, there was because that was a team we technically did not eliminate us from the playoffs, but that was another team that's kind of in the hunt in one of the spots that we need.
Yep.
That was always going to be a very hard game, but like had that game in a good spot, and Jonathan Taylor just like drops the ball and doesn't cross the fucking touchdown. It's like, what what are we doing here? Like, what kind of
Like,
organization in this situation lets that happen? Like,
that's a highlight.
Like,
That's a highlight you see from a college game. Like, that is, you watch the fumble at the goal line for a touchdown in a college game, but like you feel like that's one of those things like you drill into people, like you do not drop the ball until you know you are firmly in the end zone. Like,
and this is gonna sound dumb. It's like I almost don't even want to like lay it entirely at Jonathan Taylor's. Like, yeah, he's the one who had the ball and literally dropped the ball. So it's like, I know it sounds stupid probably to like not blame him, but it's like, no, it's on like the coaching and the management to make sure everybody understands the stakes and says like, hey, no dumb shit today because this is what's on the line. Like, It's just that simple. And it feels like that energy is just gone. But we also don't have the the kind of like bad / productive season that like if you know your team is going to be bad, right, you can find like diamonds in the rough pretty consistently.
Yep.
Which goes against the metaphor, but like you kind of know what your expectations are, right? And it feels like the Colts, we can beat anybody but can lose to anybody, and nobody has any idea what to do with that. And it's been that way for like 5 years. And and I mean beat anybody, I mean beat a good team on very dumb luck, and then lose the absolute most winnable games you've ever seen in your entire life, because that's so I don't know. The end, I guess.
Good times. I'm in a much more interesting.
It's the season of love.
It is the season of love. Like,
Love
I said it was
God.
last year, but no, this is different. Like, we are, again, as previously mentioned, 10-4 and third in our division. Of our four losses, only one of them has come outside of our division. That's, we lost to the Eagles week 1 on a pretty close game.
Mm-hmm.
But it is one of those, like, we have a very good team. We have found more success in the run game. Like, Josh Jacobs came in this year. There was a lot of, like, nervous about him, like him not being really what he was. Even the first few games, like, he wasn't really doing much, but he has found his legs and, like, is a rushing leader. Like, this year, like, he is breaking record. Like, he's doing great things. Jordan Love, like, he throws a lot of picks, but he also makes some really good plays.
Welcome back, Brett Favre.
I mean, yeah, it couldn't. We needed the gunslinger again.
I can't wait for Jordan Love's Medicare embezzlement scandal.
It's gonna be,
like,
so good
in like 20 years from now. It's gonna rock.
It's gonna be amazing.
It's so good. I don't think it was technically Medicare. Hold on, let me look it up. Keep talking.
And we have a good path through the rest of the season. We have, we play two teams that we're absolutely gonna wallop on. Like, we play the Saints and the Bears because, fuck them. We have the Vikings at Minnesota. We'll probably get a loss there, so we'll end 12-5. We'll be in the wild card spot.
Sorry, it wasn't Medicare. It was welfare.
Welfare. That's
Mississippi
what it was.
State welfare.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yes.
Continue. Fuck Brett Favre.
But it's an interesting time to, like, look at a team that you're like, man, this is a really good team. Unfortunately, there are just some other teams in our conference that are really good, but, like, that's
the kind of funny thing.
Yeah,
right?
it's like,
if the Colts were in literally any other division, we would have cleaned house a couple seasons ago.
Yeah,
because our division is the AFC South, which is the dumpster fire of American football.
Yeah,
and like, even the Texans, who are like the good one now, no one quite buys them in any sort of situation at this point.
Yeah, it's kind of wild how competitive the NFC North is right now. Like,
it's insane.
It's the Lions have like, the Lions, like, that's a whole other conversation of, like, how good they are, how good Dan Campbell is, and, like, as a fan of football, like, yes, they are supposed to be a division rival, but, like, God, it is hard to not love and appreciate what the Lions are doing, what Dan Campbell is doing, at an organizational level, on the field, like, the way he plays. Like, it's hard not to appreciate that. Like, yeah, losing to them on Thanksgiving, not great, but, like, or not, I think, but, like, around Thanksgiving, like, not great, but damn, it is incredible what they're doing. But, like, again, they have not been in that position for very long. The Vikings were kind of up and down. The Bears have been pretty trash for the last few years. So, like, the Packers have run away with the NFC North for a couple years now. So, like, for the division to be this competitive is crazy. But I do think that, like, the team that we have is a very resilient team. Like, they will battle a game to the end. So, like, I think that in the playoffs, like, they can beat any team there. They can lose to any team there. But, like, it will be a close game no matter what.
Yeah. That's, like, I was going to kind of pivot to the playoff picture here. Because I think there's some interesting things to look at. Because right now, if playoffs were today, Colts out, obviously. But And on the NFC side, Packers right now 6th. You would be playing at Tampa Bay.
Easy dub.
I don't know about
I'm
that.
sorry. Like, Baker,
Potential dub. Potential dub.
definite
I
dub.
wouldn't say unlikely dub, but I would say
Definite
that
dub.
seems like a coin toss to me.
Against the get out of here. Miss me with
Look,
that.
check. You should check how much Baker Mayfield has been scoring in our fantasy league, as the person whose team he is on, because he's very good and has been throwing a lot of touchdowns lately.
I mean, yeah, it's great. He's good at what he does, but no way.
He does play in a bad division.
He does.
Well, I can't really say that for obvious reasons, but he plays in a division that seems a lot like the AFC one we're in, if I had to guess. But that seems like a winnable game for the Packers.
Absolutely.
I would say I don't think that's at all. That's a pretty favorable matchup. Like, especially right now, I think I'd probably rather take, because like the Vikings right now are at the Rams, and that seems like a harder game right now.
Yeah, that's fair.
I don't think I want to play the Rams right now. The Rams seem to have figured something out after like that shootout with Buffalo.
They've unlocked something.
They figured something out, and that
And I will say, okay,
I would
like,
not want to play anybody who could score like
the last,
40
like, let's
bajillion
talk
points
about
in
the
December,
I know
you
you're
know?
talking about, like, oh, Baker, like the last 4 Tampa Bay wins were at Giants, at Panthers, versus the Raiders, and at Chargers. The Chargers is the only good game there, and like even then, like the Chargers are struggling. Like they are doing better, but they're struggling. Like, come on, they lost to the Ravens, Falcons, Chiefs.
Potential fraud alert.
Yeah,
Potential fraud alert here.
Lost in a row to the Ravens, Falcons, Chiefs, and Niners. Like, okay, we would
the
beat
Niners
the Bucs.
is the tricky one there. Yeah, that's
But
okay.
but
That's a good point.
4 weeks ago, the Niners were kind of good. Like they were on like the we might still be good, and then they weren't anymore. So like,
Right, that's a good point.
and we beat the Niners. We finally got that monkey off our back. Like
That's true. The Niners being out of the picture is very interesting. No curse. You know, you don't have the Cowboys in to get your free win.
Yep.
But you don't have the Niners here either.
We don't.
So
We do not have the Niners to spoil our playoff run. Like, Mike, this. I'm not gonna say it. I'm not gonna say it.
Well, let's game it out here. So, command. I think Eagles are I mean, honestly, there's a decent chance the Lions slip out of the 1 seed with how hurt they are right now. That's their big problem. Is like,
yeah, David Montgomery also just got ruled out indefinitely with an injury, so like that's gonna be tough.
They could really slip out because like I don't want to say like nobody's noticed how good the Eagles are, but it feels like the Lions are the big team in the NFC, and like the Eagles are also 12-2.
We've spent almost an entire season since week 2 with Philly fans being like, Sirianni out, but it's like, they've lost 2 games. Like, how do you want to fire your coach when you've lost 2 games?
It's like, no, I kind of get it, but then the bald Sirianni era now, and
yeah,
they're still,
and they have a plus 122 point differential. Like, they are not just winning; like they are winning decisively. And
right,
I don't understand it.
Yeah, it's like, it's just that's the thing is it feels like they are, weirdly I feel like there's not enough discourse about Philadelphia, all this like it feels it's disrespectful to say sneaking in, but like I feel like people are gonna be like, wait, the Eagles were good and they're gonna be the NFC Championship game, and then they're 1 fluke away from the Super Bowl.
You're like it's hard to say like a 12-2 team snuck into the conversation.
Right.
But it does feel like that. Like I do feel like I was seeing some of the morning show conversation today, and some of the press conference from the clash of Pennsylvania, the Pennsylvania Bowl, and Jalen Hurts and some of the other folks coming into the press conference and being like, see what the fuck we're talking about. But it's like, seriously, like, this team came into this weekend 11-2 against a 10-3 team that's very good and beat them, and they're basically like, are you guys done like saying we're washed because we're a really good team?
Right, because people are gonna say they're washed until they're like all of a sudden in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and even then they might still be like, I don't know, Sirianni out, like.
That would be really funny. So, I'm always in the favor of doing something very funny. But like, let's game it out here. So, let's just say Eagles take care of Commanders. Vikings take care of the Rams take care of the Vikings. I guess I don't think that's gonna happen, but and Packers pull up the upset against the Buccaneers. So because the way it works, right, is like they reseed. So it's like the Lions would play the lowest seed remaining, right?
Yeah.
So probably if the Packers beat the Buccaneers, you're probably playing the Lions. Like they're probably playing the Lions or the Eagles. I feel like the Lions, as like it's really hard to beat a team three times in one season.
And if
I'm the Packers, that's the matchup I want.
That's the matchup
I don't think I want to play the Eagles.
And I don't want to play the Lions with one game to the Super Bowl. Like, there is something, like, yes, in the playoffs, you are always in the mindset of, like, this is the road to the Super Bowl, but, like, in the conference championship, that is, like, oh, this is the game before the Super Bowl. Like, in basically, like, the semifinal or the quarterfinals, there's still another game to play. So, like, there is, I think, something psychologically different about that. So, as the higher seed, you almost have to, like, you have more to play for. You don't have to, like, do the math, like, oh, we need to leave a little bit left because we have to play, we have to play the Eagles next or whatever. Like, I would almost rather play them earlier rather than in the conference championship. Like, yes, for the discourse, for the storyline, like, beating the Lions in the conference championship to get to the Super Bowl, that's amazing. But in
all-time evil team move, that would be
But in terms of, like, just thinking strategically, I would want to play them in the divisional game rather than the conference game.
I see that. I think that's valid. Yeah, it really feels like, I don't know if I'm talking myself, like, I think I think if I'm the Packers, I want to avoid playing the Eagles as long as possible.
Yeah.
If so, hopefully, I think you want the Lions to keep the 1 seed, weirdly enough.
Yeah.
So that if you get past the Buccaneers, that's the matchup. Yeah, all the gaming out of it is fun. Like, I don't think like Washington's had a pretty good season. I just don't know if they beat the Eagles. It's like these playoff divisional matchups are always like tricky.
Just the Commanders making it to the playoffs is enough for this season. Like,
yeah, that's all. They should be really happy with that.
1,000%. Like, of all of the rookie quarterbacks playing this year, like, Jaden has been the one who has exceeded all expectations.
GM Mike's draft board,
and it is one where everyone is like
very closely.
But he was also the one where, like, everybody's like, why did they draft? Like, he's not really going to bring much to this team. And all the conversation is on the Bears and on the Titans of like, oh, you know, they've got these studs from college, like we're ready to see what they can do, and like they all shit the bucket, and then you got Jaden out here just bringing this excuse me, struggling team to a very
Pretty solid team.
very solid winning record. Like, how many times do you see a rookie come into a struggling organization like that and like really make an impact?
I've seen it one time.
I know you did.
That's a very I want to go make some edits with like that "You Left Your Sweater" song. You know, I gotta go make some edits. That or like the Ken Burns soundtrack for this fucking Civil War documentary, whatever you want to do. I don't know. So I feel like at this point I think I tip the favorite coming out of the NFC. I tip it to the Eagles. I just think the Lions defense, like, they could, and this is like my one knock against Buffalo too, is it's like, it's awesome that you guys can score like 50,000 points, but why do you need to? It's like I'm a Pacers fan, and their game is like, we're going to score 130 points, and then the opponent's going to score 129 points. Which is like good. It's like it's awesome that your offense can do that, but like, why is that happening?
I will say the point differential, the Lions is plus 177, the Eagles is only plus 122.
That's the other thing.
Now I will say the Lions did have a couple games where they really ran up the score.
Biggest fraud alert possible over on the AFC side. If you're ready for the AFC pivot,
the fucking Kansas City Chiefs.
What's Mr. Point differential? What are they at right now?
Plus 70.
Plus 70. So that's really interesting.
So there are 4 teams in the league that have not scored 30 points or more this year. They are the Jets, the Giants, the Patriots, and the Chiefs.
It's just kind of interesting, you know. That's the funny thing to think about, right? Is like, why are they in all of these close games? But
yep,
they also keep winning them. So does it matter? So it's really fun to think about, especially because we just got the fucking replay of last year. Like, oh, Mahomes hurt his ankle. Uh-oh. It's like, no, we did this last year. You're not fooling me this time.
Yep.
I don't want to say like, oh, I want to say they're fraudulent, but like, I feel like, I don't know. Not to sound like too blowhard, but that team is very experienced. It's a very veteran team. They're not afraid of being in extremely close, extremely tense situations.
Yeah.
And pulling out wins when they should be losses. Because of like one play that Mahomes extends just a little bit better than anybody else could. And I think in the playoffs, like, it's just like that. It's like that veteran experience. Like, I think that is invaluable. And I don't think, and it's like the way they kind of had Kelsey on the back burner all season too. They really just save him for the playoffs. Like, there's a whole dimension to this team that they have not really like put out there yet. So I think Kansas City is gonna look very. I would be surprised if like Kansas City gets knocked off before the championship game.
Yeah.
Because I think they are a team that has like every game that they play is we want to beat the Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs. Like every game they play is like that. So every game they're getting the best of every team.
Yeah.
So that's my piece on that, I think.
I think that's a good point. It'll be interesting to see how that. I do feel like in the AFC, like there are fewer storylines. Like it is pretty clear. Like there are some decent teams. Like you've got the Ravens who were seeming pretty good, but have like slowed down a little bit. You got the Steelers who are obviously very good. It's honestly going to come down to like
the Renaissance.
The Renaissance is pretty good, but like you have the Chiefs who just seem to grind out the wins when they need to, and then you've got Josh Allen who just like is going to Josh Allen on you. And
this feels I don't want to hoax them. Not that I think I could hoax them any more than the Bills have like already been hoaxed by like the pain of history.
Everything.
I just don't. There's nothing else I could say that changes anything at this point. This feels like the year. I don't know. I feel like they are on a warpath right now. Like just the numbers that they are dropping on people is just insane. Josh Allen like having a running game, having people who can like catch the ball.
They're getting ready. They're getting ready to have their inaugural season in their new stadium, and they want to send Highmark out on a good note with like fucking deep buried snow stands and a Super Bowl banner. Like they are ready for that. A quick thing. We're wrapping up here. We kind of talked about this before in the pre-show before we started recording. Quick score update because we are recording this on Monday, December 16th. While we have a stupid Monday Night Football doubleheader going on. We are currently in the 2-minute warning in the Bears-Vikings game with the Vikings up 27-12. And in the Falcons-Raiders game, we are almost to the 2-minute warning with the Falcons up 15-9.
Wow, look at that. Thanks for the live update.
Happy to do it. And the last thing I'll say, and I know we both kind of feel the same way about this, the Monday Night Football doubleheader. Thumbs down needs to die. One of the worst innovations in football. Like, honestly, like, a few years ago, the Thursday Night Football game, I thought really sucked. And, like, it got moved over to Prime, and, like, that kind of sucked too. But, like, Thursday Night Football has, like, honestly not been too bad the last year or two.
They've had some solid games. I don't know about the Al Michaels situation. He sounds disengaged.
Yeah.
But the games are solid.
It is time for Al Michaels to retire. But and him and Kirk do not have chemistry. Like at all. Like at least Al and Chris had some chemistry. Like they had been together for long enough. They were the best on TV. Like they were a great duo. And I think if Al was still calling games with Chris, it would be different. But like Al just needs to retire. But like beyond that, like Thursday Night Football has been all right. I do think it's a little bit of a travesty that we're having, like, Netflix deal aside, having Christmas Day.
I want to bitch about this.
Football.
Can I bitch about this?
We'll get there. Christmas Day football games, bad. On Netflix, worse. But still, the Monday Night Football doubleheader, especially when they are starting at the same time. I get the, like, okay, we're going to have one game on the East Coast that starts at, like, 7, and we're going to have a West Coast game that starts at 10. Like, I can see that once a season, but, like, the games that are starting at the same time as, like, a Sunday at 1 game is, like, Monday Night Football is supposed to be a prime time game. If I am choosing between the two, that's not a prime time game. That is a regular ass Sunday morning football game, and it loses a bit of the allure of like ESPN Monday Night Football.
Right, like Falcons at Raiders, sir. You are a 10 a.m. Sunday morning NFL TV, True TV, Hallmark Channel football game. I'm sorry.
Yep.
You were
like,
not fooling
this
me.
is a game that I should only be watching if I'm subscribed to Sunday Ticket.
I need an app to watch this. This cannot be on broadcast.
There's no national broadcast of that game.
Public access only. Only on Bally Sports.
Yep. Right. Real quick. Christmas on Netflix. Rant. Mike, go. Are there 2 or 3 games on Christmas?
I think it's
I think it's 3 games on Christmas Day. Well, I'll look that up. You start your rant.
My bit about this is like, hey, Christmas is the NBA holiday, okay? Those are like they put the marquee matchups. They put LeBron on. Like, I know the NBA is having like a bit of a ratings dip, but like, show off the big new teams. Like, that's the NBA holiday. Like, this is the NFL trying to muscle in on Christmas. It's like, no, go away. This is the NBA holiday. You get Thanksgiving, Christmas Day, NBA. Let me have it, okay? I just feel I don't know. I don't care for it.
No, 100%. Like,
exactly.
For me, like, Christmas Day is a Christmas Story day. Like, I'm not even watching NBA on that day. Like, I don't even know that. Like, for me, honestly, like, okay, I kind of get the like.
I don't like A Christmas Story. I hate that movie. Sorry, continue.
We'll talk about this later. Like, I get the like John Madden turducken. Like, Thanksgiving is a football holiday, but like Christmas, like, honestly, there should be no sports on Christmas. Like, I get that.
I don't know if I can agree with
that. I get that, the NBA, like, blah, 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 but like, honestly, like, nobody should be working on Christmas. They shouldn't. They should be.
I could make that trade. I think that's fine.
But real quick, the 2 games we are getting is Chiefs Steelers and Ravens Texans on Christmas Day for the NFL.
And see, the other thing is, like, hypothetically, those should be all right games, but like, they're gonna be because like I think they play like a Saturday. I think they set it up so those teams play a Saturday before the Wednesday, and it's like that's insane. Like,
I will say,
logistically, it's gonna fuck up their like. I don't like.
Now, I really think it's only in the playoffs, but I do say Saturday NFL games do have a precedent once like college football starts coming to a wrap. But like, again, I want to see like a Chiefs Steelers game. I have interest in that. A Ravens Texans game, like, I would turn that game on. I'm not going to turn it on Christmas. I have a Netflix subscription. I'm not going to turn it on. I'm going to have A Christmas Story on while I get dinner prepared. I'm not going to turn either of those games on. Man, I will probably forget that they're on.
I find the narration overbearing. I don't think it's that funny. I don't buy it. I don't like it. I never liked it as a kid, and we'd always watch it. I'm like, why? I don't like it. I don't know. Doesn't do it for me. Does not hit.
Mike, do you know where you can find really funny narration?
Where?
Unscriptedgaming.com. That's where you can find links to all of our episodes. Like this, Creed Got Robbed, presented by Unscripted Gaming, with our preview of our yet unnamed sports podcast. You can find us on our socials, Facebook at Unscripted Game Podcast, on X.com at unscript_gaming. I know Ray has made a blue sky for us. I don't know it yet. You can find all of our audio versions of our podcast at soundcloud.com/unscripted-gaming. We are on all of the audio catchers if you want to find us on your favorite podcast app. You can also find video versions of the podcast on YouTube. Just look up Unscripted Gaming on YouTube. Thank you for listening to Creed Got Robbed, presented by Unscripted Gaming. My name is Josh.
My name is Mike. Super quick parting shot, Super Bowl prediction, 2 teams. Go.
Bills, Packers.
Bills, Eagles, I think.
Peace.
We'll see.